Abducted by a multi-dimensional being and forced into gladiator combat against the world's most vile supervillains in the ultimate war of good versus evil, the Amazing Spider-Man battled alongside his universe's greatest heroes in The Secret War. Spider-Man and his allies managed to claim victory and escape back to their home planet, but amid the chaos came a costume. A strange black costume of alien material bonded itself to Peter Parker's Spidey suit, granting him even more power than he had before. But alongside that greater power came greater responsibility. With the help of the Fantastic Four, Peter eventually discovered that this was no costume, it was a living being attempting to bond itself permanently to Peter. Reed Richards successfully removed the alien from Peter, but that wasn't the end of its threat, as it would go on to escape and seek revenge on Spider-Man as the sinister Venom. But what if Peter hadn't escaped the black suit's clutches? That's what we're going to look into today as we find out what lurks within the Spider's shadow. This story starts inside the tortured mind of our hero, who's once again suffering nightmares of his past failures and premonitions of his future ones. It's looking like another restless night for Peter Parker as he does a roll call of all his problems. The biggest of which being his falling out with his Aunt May because he dropped out of higher education and she sees it as him giving up on his dreams. Rather than going to get some warm milk, Peter dons his strange black costume and takes to the skies. It seems nowadays that being Spider-Man's the easy part of Peter's life, especially with his new suit of alien material that enhances his arachnid abilities. It responds to his mental commands, gives him unlimited weapon, and can shapeshift. But all Peter truly knows is that it's not of this world. He did intend on getting it analysed, but why look a gift horse in the mouth? Peter's sleepless night ended up doing some good as he catches a punk trying to mug an old lady. Spidey's getting really sick of idiots hurting innocent people just for money or jewels or street cred, and he loses his cool for a second before deciding to just web the mugger up for the police. Spidey monologues his woes to himself as he swings home, and is surprised to hear a dark voice answer him back. Was that just his subconscious, his exhausted mind, or was it something else? The nightmares keep haunting Peter, so much so that he lashes out in his sleep and almost hurts Mary Jane. At this point these two aren't together, but MJ does know Peter's secret identity. After a recent scrap with the Puma, she's revealed to Peter that she'd always known about his double life, and that's why she couldn't marry him. But that doesn't mean she isn't his friend. She's been worried about the changes he's been going through, and he does agree things have been different with him lately, but he'll figure it out. After all, he is a superhero. The first step Peter takes to getting back to his old friendly neighbourhood self is having Reed Richards of the Fantastic Four finally find out just what his new costume is. Coincidentally, it's exactly when Pete decides to get the suit looked at that it begins playing up, almost as if the costume itself doesn't want to be analysed, as if this alien material has a secret to hide. Now comes the shatter point of the canon where this universe takes a dark turn, and all it takes is an unscheduled appearance from the horrific Hobgoblin. This Halloween-themed thug has been haunting New York for months, using technology stolen from the late Norman Osborn and teaming up with the crime lord The Rose to take over the New York underworld, a dream often crushed by Spider-Man. Spidey knows how dangerous the Hobgoblin can be, so he Batman returns him before someone gets pumpkin bombed. Sleepless nights, is civilian life falling apart, villains endangering innocents. Spidey's had enough. That sinister voice in the back of his head urges Spidey to end the Hobgoblin for good, but Peter settles on a more humiliating defeat for Hobby. Ripping the mask from his face, Hobgoblin is revealed as fashion mogul Roderick Kingsley, who Spidey once personally rescued from another villain, Belladonna. Ungrateful bastard. Spider-Man tells Kingsley he isn't sending him to prison because he wants him to send a message to the other scum and villainy in New York. Spider-Man isn't playing nice anymore. Later on, Spidey reveals to the Black Cat that he does regret his words to Kingsley, but she thinks a little fear might make the criminals think twice next time. Spider-Man's been so angry and tired lately, ever since Battleworld where he got his new threads, and so he resolves to finally get his costume checked out. Finally meeting with Reed Richards, Peter explains how the suit doesn't just make his web shooters redundant. The longer it's on him, the more powerful he feels. Dr. Richards is suspicious. Pete tries to sleep while the machine scans his suit, but once again he's plagued by nightmares. Again, that strange voice tells Peter he needs to be a more deadly Spider-Man, telling him he needs to hurt people to save people. And when he awakens, Spidey is told a disturbing truth about his costume. It's alive. The black suit's actually a symbiotic organism feeding off of Spider-Man. The first thing Mr. Fantastic wants to do is remove it in case it's dangerous, but Spidey refuses. He's starting to think Richards might just want the suit for himself. Thoughts that might be corrupted by the living alien sticking to Spidey's skin. Peter leaves, dismissing the world's smartest man's warning, and heads for home. And I do mean home. He visits Aunt May, despite the recent argument, and Peter and May make up, just in time for it all to come crashing down. The Hobgoblin strikes. He's been stalking Spider-Man all day, and he's now discovered his secret identity. Spider-Man's warning about no longer playing games had no effect on the Goblin, and he's gonna pay the wall crawler back for the embarrassment. Hobgoblin claims this is all Spidey's fault, that he ruined all the fun by getting serious. But there's more important things to worry about than Goblin's games. Aunt May's home is burning, with May still in there. Spidey springs to action, and the hero's source of strength reveals its greatest weakness. The alien symbiote bonded to Peter can't handle fire of any intensity. It uses its tar-like webs to hold Peter back as his childhood home burns. The only mother Spider-Man's ever known dies, and the last wisps of willpower holding Peter Parker together dies alongside her. Spider-Man snaps. He murders the Hobgoblin, deciding that if he has the power to stop these maniacs for good, then it's his responsibility to do so. Peter's conflicted. He knows what he did to the Hobgoblin was wrong, but the symbiote justifies it by convincing him that killing criminals is the only way to stop them from hurting people. Peter's still ashamed of what he's done, but when the Daily Bugle gets a hold of the story, Peter decides that being feared might do more good than being good ever could. Crashing through the Daily Bugle offices, Spider-Man lashes out at J. Jonah Jameson for all the years he's made Spidey out to be a bad guy, breaking JJ's hand and threatening to return if he ever sees his name in the Bugle again. With his sins all over the front page, Mary Jane visits her ex to try and get his side of the story, but what she discovers is Spider-Man slowly becoming less human. Straight from the spider's mouth, she gets the truth. He's more angry back alley than friendly neighbourhood now. Yet a part of him is disgusted by his own actions. The symbiote assures Peter that they're doing the right thing. It whispers that humans can't understand their responsibility, and Peter begins to realise his mistake. The sudden buzzing of his spider sense distracts the sinister Spider-Man from his thoughts as an old foe takes a pot shot at the webhead. The Shocker, vibro gauntlet wielding bank robber extraordinaire, assaults Spidey with his vibrational blasts, but Spidey isn't playing games tonight. Shocker didn't come alone. Another Spider Rogue strikes out. The sting of the Scorpion is nullified as the once hero murders another enemy. Scorpion used to be a real threat to the Wallcrawler, but the Black Spider-Man seems to be invincible. Shocker can't escape him. Spider-Man would chase him to the ends of the earth just to ensure Shocker couldn't hurt anyone else. In his last moments, the Shocker reveals this attack was plotted by Wilson Fisk, the kingpin of crime. Spider-Man has his next target. Face to face with Fisk, the kingpin dares to mock Spider-Man to his face. He knows Peter's secret through deduction from May's death, and he planned to use his new knowledge to destroy Peter's life as he had once done to Daredevil. But there was barely a life left to destroy. Spider-Man doesn't say a word. He doesn't have to. Word of Spider-Man's misdeeds reached the multi-armed menace that is Dr. Octopus, and the Master Planner dusts off an old favourite. He reforms as Sinister Six, a band of villains with one thing in common: burning hatred for the Wallcrawler. Dr. Octopus, the metal-armed madman; Mysterio, master of illusion; Kraven, the world's greatest hunter; Electro, the living lightning bolt; and Rhino, the human wrecking ball. And Octavius's sixth member, J. Jonah Jameson. Otto instructs Kraven the Hunter to draft a plan of attack, but Otto won't live to see it. One of the underlings betray him, unmasking to reveal himself as Eddie Brock. He can't let Otto and his goons kill Spider-Man, because he wants to do it himself. In the dead of night, Jameson arrives at the meeting of the new Sinister Six. Jonah has personal history with Mysterio, as the Master of Illusion had tried to con JJ into making him a public hero, and Kraven, who had once used Jonah's paper to publicly challenge Spidey to a showdown. But it's not Doc Ock that rounds out this dirty half-dozen. It's Brock Ock. Eddie Brock, ex-newspaper reporter for the Globe, has stolen Otto's aggressive appendages and intends to use them to get revenge on Spider-Man for ruining his life after indirectly exposing Brock's reporting as false. The Sinister Six don't seem too bothered by this change of leadership. They just want Spider-Man dead, and so they've set up a trap away from New York to stop any unwanted attention from other costume types. The other superheroes can't get a lead on Peter. The city's on high alert, but Spidey isn't in the city anymore. Thanks to a tip-off from the recently deceased Beetle, he knows what the Six are planning, and he's ready. Before the bloodshed begins, Jonah points out something that's always annoyed me about Eddie Brock. Spider-Man's the last person Eddie should blame. His revenge should be aimed at either the guy who lied about being the Sin Eater, or the real Sin Eater, not the fella who stopped the serial killer. Spider-Man signals his arrival in the most gruesome way possible, and the Sinister Six spring to action. The coalition of criminals plan to use Mysterio's illusions to confound the webhead, leaving him open to the heavy hitters. It doesn't work. Spider-Man's defeated these villains before, and if they stood such little chance against the old Spidey, then they stand no chance at all against the symbiotic nightmare he's become. First falls Mysterio, a mortal man whose only power was his cunning mind. Quentin Beck dies. The Rhino once battled the Incredible Hulk and put up a good fight, but even he can't handle the brutality of the new Spider-Man. Eddie Brock gets put down without much fanfare, his stolen arms not coming in handy after all. And Electro, easily the most powerful weapon in the Six's arsenal, is smothered by the darkness. 4 down, 2 to go. Jonah reappears, controlling the old model Spider Slayer once again. Fire burns around the foes and the symbiote hesitates, tipping Kraven off to his enemy's Achilles heel. With the Inferno keeping the alien at bay, it looks like Jonah's gonna finally finish the Spider Menace for good. The alien mask burns away, revealing the face of Jonah's protege, Peter Parker. The intense flames detach the symbiote from its host, and the Spider Slayer becomes a Spider Saver. Kraven, the last surviving member of the Sinister Six, goes for the kill, but Jameson ends his hunt prematurely. With the alien threat ended, Jonah and Peter take an awkward drive back to the city. JJ doesn't blame Peter for the murders, but Peter does, and his nightmare isn't over yet. Jonah gets Peter home safe, where MJ and Black Cat have some more devastating news. The Kingpin's trump card, Spider-Man's identity, went public. But the worst is yet to come. The symbiote still lives, and it's found a brand new host, Mr. Fantastic. The world now knows Spidey's real name, and thanks to the symbiote's supervillain killing spree, Peter Parker is a wanted man. But he doesn't have time to explain the situation to the police. He can feel that sinister slime still out there. and it's his responsibility to put it down. Spider-Man's plan was to go back to Reed Richards for help, but it seems the symbiote got to Mr. Fantastic first. This bit's interesting. Peter explains that he doesn't think the suit is evil, it's just following his lead. All the symbiote did was unleash Peter from his inhibitions. He wanted to kill his villains, the alien costume just egged him on. Mary Jane disagrees. Peter's a good man, despite the inner darkness the alien took advantage of. Even with all the death and sadness he's suffered through, he's still come through for the city time after time. And now, the city needs him again. Avengers have quarantined the Baxter building and Spidey makes his approach. The goo hasn't made any demands, but Spider-Man knows what it wants. The Human Torch flares up, blaming Spidey for the alien capturing Reed and Ben Grimm. But they'll never get through this if they don't work together. The symbiote has taken over the biggest brain in the universe and it's been putting Reed to good use. Using Richards' mega brain, it's managed to power itself up even more, merging with Reed's formula for unstable molecules, making the suit nearly indestructible. Spidey needs to face this monster, and despite Captain America not liking the idea, we all know what has to be done. The cause of this problem, the reason the symbiote was able to cause so much damage through Spider-Man, was because Peter felt he was all alone. Without May dead, he felt he had no one, so now as he crawls towards his greatest enemy, MJ refuses to let Peter be alone. The Human Torch follows her in, either through worry about his missing family, or through lingering friendship with Spidey. But Spider-Man isn't the only one with backup. A corrupted thing attacks the duo, intending to drag Spider-Man back to the suit. The thing separates Spider-Man and the Torch, eager to reunite his master with his love. But not without a fight. Spider-Man blitzes Ben, throwing all he's got at the Yancey Street symbiote stooge. And even managing to throw the thing from the building, where the Avengers can keep him occupied. This dark adventure has taken its toll on Peter, and he collapses just as the Human Torch comes face to face with his terrifying alien enemy. Johnny tries to reach his brother-in-law, but the symbiote's in control now. It has, however, been using Reed's vast knowledge to create an all-new nightmare for Peter, and indeed the entire planet. It's multiplying. The suit plans to infect everybody, not just Peter, and it starts with the other superheroes. MJ and the Torch face Reed as the Avengers and X-Men outside succumb to Venom. Venomous Avengers swarm the building, summoned by their Dark Master. While on the upper levels, the original symbiote snarls at Mary Jane. Peter never truly gave himself to the alien because his love for MJ kept him from going full Venom, so once MJ's out the way. The Human Torch lights the way to safety as he grabs MJ and takes to the sky, forcing the attention of the symbiote and all the corrupted capes. He's bought Spider-Man time to rummage through Reed's lab and come up with an answer to their prayers. Reed had the symbiote samples Pete needs to find a true weakness, but he can't let his nerves get the best of him. He needs to be as smart as Aunt May knew he was. And Spider-Man's ready to face his fears. The symbiote brings all his new recruits with it to witness its victory. Peter bargains with the alien costume, stating he can have him completely, but only if he releases the heroes and leaves Mary Jane alone. It agrees, but not before murdering Reed Richards. The suit lunges at Peter. It thought ahead, and it made sure that no weapon in the lab could be used against it. But its undoing ends up being a gadget made to help, not hurt. Ben Grimm's image inducer, created to let him walk around as a normal man again, disguises the Human Torch as the symbiote wraps its webs around the hero of fire, and the Human Torch avenges his brother. In the aftermath, Jonah Jameson forgives Spider-Man of all his imagined crimes against him and urges Eddie Brock to do the same before it consumes him. Peter Parker turns himself in and is found not guilty thanks to testimonies from the other heroes, the symbiote's infection strategy exonerating Spidey of any wrongdoing. The recently widowed Susan Richards tells Peter she knows he didn't kill her husband. What happened was awful, but she's here to take the bad and turn it into something good, just like Reed had done after the four gained their powers. She wanted to make sure this tragedy had a silver lining, and Peter Parker joins the Fantastic Four. But this isn't just a new beginning for Peter. Wilson Fisk lives, and with a surviving sample of the symbiote, the Kingpin plots his revenge. This story was set in what's probably my favourite time period of Spider-Man. Everything from Amazing issue 200 until Spectacular issue 200 is peak Spidey. The Hobgoblin, MJ's revelation of knowing his secret the whole time, the Black Cat relationship, Peter's marriage, and of course the black suit, it's all fantastic. This story showed off a much darker path for Spider-Man than we're used to. One big aspect of this that we don't often see is that the villain was the symbiote. It wasn't Venom. It was the actual alien itself taking centre stage to terrorise Spidey. Usually there's a man behind the monster, but here it was pure symbiote. Bit of a nerdy nitpick, but regarding Eddie Brock, in mainline 616 the Sin-Eater murders didn't happen until long after Peter got rid of the symbiote. The black suit he's wearing in that was a cloth version the Black Cat made him. But in this universe, that story must have just happened far earlier, I suppose. And while I did enjoy this, it wasn't perfect. The villains go down like absolute punks. Fair play to Mysterio because he is just a normal guy. But I'd like to highlight the Rhino specifically. This dude fights the Hulk, but one punch from Spider-Venom kills him. Scorpion as well, barely had a fight before he was dead. Shocker was again treated like a joke. Electro should have been more of a threat, defo, just because of how powerful he can be. Dr. Octopus didn't even get to fight Spider-Man. He dies to a backstab from Eddie Brock. Oc's arms are fused to his skin, aren't they? So how did Eddie get them off? And why didn't any of the Master Planner's goons stop him from killing the boss? The final fight as well, it ends with Peter basically just leaving and letting the Human Torch do his dirty work. It was a bit lame, but the twist with the image inducer was good. I understand it was Peter's plan, but I'd have preferred something like the Torch distracts the symbiote while Peter does whatever beats it, just so he had a more direct hand in its defeat. This was a bit edgier than we're used to as well. I didn't show it, but there's a panel where Spider-Man throws the Shocker's dismembered arm at Kingpin. Grim. What I did like, however, was J. Jonah Jameson coming through for Peter, saving him and forgiving him. When he's used right, Jonah's a brilliant character. The design for Spider-Venom as well was cool as hell, and I'd like to see it as a suit in a game sometime. Also, this was another reality where Peter and MJ end up together. That's always nice to see. And the ending of Peter joining the Fantastic Four was nice too. He'd been worried about being alone the whole book, and now he's got a true family once again. Before we finish, what's your favourite symbiote? I've always liked the look of Lasher. I've never really liked the character of Carnage, and I remember Scream being cool on the Orlando Spider-Man ride.